Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Veronica with nurturingconnectionshomeschool.com, where I share planners, resources, and tips to help you connect with what matters most. If you haven't been to my website just yet, I do want to point out that I have a free printable library available there. So a lot of the resources that I share in my videos and in my blog posts I include for free for anybody who's interested in signing up. So all you need is an email address. I'm not going to spam you. My heart is just to get these resources out there and to share them with you since I've created them for my family and my children, and hopefully they can bless others as well. So I have a free printable library out there. I also have a master class called Nurturing Connections in Your Homeschool that hopefully can be an encouragement to you if you want to go check it out. So that is, now for those of you who are new here, I am homeschooling my 8th grader, 5th grader, and 2nd grader at this time. This is our 11th year of homeschooling. So we have been doing this for quite some time, have made some adjustments along the way, and my heart behind this channel is just to share what we've learned, what things have blessed us, what has helped us, what lessons we've had to come by the hard way, and just to hopefully be an encouragement to you in your own journey. Now, what I've done this year for the first time is share our homeschool term updates. So every term is 6 weeks in length, and at the end of every term, I've taken the time to come on here to let you know what we loved, what worked for us, what didn't work so well, and what changes we made along the way. So this is term 4 update. It's actually a couple weeks late. We are already 2 weeks into term 5. And so we just have a little bit over 10 weeks to go for our school year. So what we like to do, since we homeschool year round, is that in the summer we usually homeschool about 3 days a week, and we take a couple of days a week to get out, to go to the river, the pool, and that kind of thing. And then we end about early August and take about a 3-week, 4-week break before we resume right after Labor Day. So that's usually the schedule we work toward to get our 6 terms in, but we'll see how it all pans out as we move forward. Now for term 4, this was about end of January up until April-ish. So what we did during that time, so in term 4, we did a number of things in our homeschool, many of which were not curriculum based. So I'm going to share with you how I planned that out, what we did. You want to grab yourself a cup of tea, cup of coffee, and kind of sit and relax and see if this So term 4, what I use to plan my terms is my bucket planner. So if you're familiar with my previous videos, and you know that my bucket planning system is set up on the idea that we create these bucket lists for the entire homeschool journey, and then every year we narrow it down to the year and then to every term. So I took my bucket lists here for term 4, and I jotted everything down. You can kind of see my breakdown here for term 4. I had discipleship, social studies, science, PE health, creative arts, and life skills. So these are our group study buckets. That means that these are the things that we do all together. What we do every single day is 3 30-minute is we meet up for 3 30-minute blocks of time. So I have my timer that I've shared in the past. I set it for 30 minutes. We get started with one piece of it. We take about a 5-6 minute break. Then we do another 30 minutes, take a break, and another 30 minutes. So we found that that helps us stay on track. During that time for that first block, when I'm doing more read-alouds and things like that, the kids will be doing some hands-on projects like painting or drawing or coloring, just something that helps them stay engaged and keeps their hands busy, but it also helps them to focus better. So I allow that for that reason. I know that for the longest time it was always, sit still, don't move, listen, and pay attention. But I know personally I learn better when I doodle and listen, or when I'm moving my hands and keeping busy. It really helps me to focus. So I've kept that in mind with my kids, and we do that during our group study time. And then when we're doing more of like workbook style or videos and hands-on projects, then of course we set aside those items and then we get started on the other activities that we're doing. So what we did in term 4 was the following. So we started off with discipleship. One thing that we had the opportunity to do this particular term was serve in our church. So we try to do that as often as possible. We're on the resource team, and whenever there's a need, they'll send out a message and kind of see who's available to help. So we were able to go out there and prepare little resurrection eggs for Easter time, and just serve there for a few hours as a family. The other thing that we covered during term 4 was another one of our answers books. So we've been going through the answer books for kids series. So there are 8 volumes, and we're not going in any particular order, but we did cover volume 8 in its entirety, which was 22 questions from kids on Satan and angels. So a lot of great discussions. I like that it always starts off with a scripture, gives an explanation, and then provides more scriptural support as needed. So this has been a really good apologetics course at their level for them to just understand some general answers to some of the big questions that they have. And we also started volume 4, and so we're actually just working our way through this one. So we just do about a couple of them every time we meet for group study. Now in term 4, we started off doing a co-op. So it was like the tail end of the co-op that we were doing, which was a half-day co-op on Fridays from 9 to 12. So that took the place of our group study. When the kids came home, we just did our independent studies. So we had that co-op plus the full day co-op that they did normally. So that meant we only had 3 days a week to do our group studies together. So that happened for, again, a good portion of term 4. Then we let go of that co-op because it was only a 10-week co-op, the half-day one. And now we've been able to meet 4 days a week, which is a lot nicer. I feel like we're getting through more of our stuff, but those co-ops really just offered some really neat experiences and opportunities that I felt were good for the kids and met our needs. So we went ahead and did that anyway. But we're getting through this one now. We did the Lord's Prayer. For recitation and memory work, we continued with the Lord's Prayer. So this is something we had already memorized before, but we just went back to it because we were also doing God's psychiatry. So we went into that with this book, and then we also finished up with the Beatitudes, and that's where we left off here. So we're done with this book. Mixed reviews, I'm going to be honest. There were some things that I really, really liked. I liked the connections. I liked the depth of understanding. I like how they talked about different missionaries, as I've mentioned in the past. So there was a lot of things that the kids could grasp onto, and it just broke down, verse by verse by verse. And so it just provided those opportunities for some really good discussions. Where I kind of struggled a little bit was when it brought in other viewpoints that weren't Christian per se. And so there was a reference to Buddha, for example, and things like that I didn't feel was as appropriate. And so I skipped over some things, or we just talked about some things, and I'm okay with that. Now that I have older kids, we talk about discernment. We talk about, what is their worldview versus our worldview, and so forth. So we could navigate through that. As far as whether or not I recommend it for everybody, as far as whether or not I recommend it, it's okay. We liked it. I mean, we still gleaned a lot from it, and it was a good experience overall. So I'll leave that there. We did our prayer handouts. So I mentioned in the past that I had some So I mentioned in the past that I had those prayer handouts, and that was in term 3. I broke it down for you. It's free. It's a free printable on my site if you're interested. But basically, the kids took some time to praise. The R stood for repentance, the A stood for acknowledgement, and the Y stood for you, or their supplication. And so just writing down their prayers about once a week has been really good for them to just expand on those prayers and not just get stuck in the you part of prayer. So we're continuing with that. I just made them little prayer journals, and they just do that once a week. Then we also did Darkest Night, Brightest Day. So this was a family devotional that we did for Easter. And so the darkest night went into the week right before Christ was crucified. And then we flipped the book and we went into the week after he was crucified and rose again. So I really like this perspective. I think that a lot of children's books, talk about he rose again and then it ends there. And what I liked about here is it talked about the eyewitnesses, people that saw Jesus after he resurrected, and to have those conversations about what the Bible teaches about that and all of that. So it was really good. We really enjoyed this for Easter. And that was a neat experience. For social studies and geography, hold on, dog. What do you need? Do you need to go outside? My goodness. My goodness, you're such a silly dog. Okay. Okay, so for social studies, history, and geography, we have continued with Texas history. So I don't have anything to show you here other than just to share that my father was a public school teacher who taught Texas history and absolutely loves the subject. And so we had the opportunity for him to come. He comes once a week for an hour, and he shares his passion with the kids. He shares maps and charts and visuals and all of that good stuff. He does a great lesson with them. They're learning to take notes and keep all that in a binder with the expectation that at the very end they're going to go on field trips, and we're just going to kind of tour around the area to visit a lot of these landmarks and so forth. So I'm excited about that. This is an opportunity that we knew we weren't going to have again in the future. My son going into high school will no longer be doing a state history course. And so we're just going to continue with Texas history all the way through. So we have 10 more weeks of Texas history, which is great. Another thing we did for social studies is just citizenship. So we did do another service project as a group, and that was that we went out to support our local water system in painting fire hydrants. So our troop, American Heritage Girls, that I've shared about in the past, is committed to faith, service and fun. And so one of the service projects was to go into a community, to a neighborhood community, and paint these fire hydrants. And so they had to strip the paint and they had to spray paint them all and all of that. So it was neat. It was a neat experience. My son got to come along. They had vests for them and masks and all the goggles and everything else, and it was just a neat experience. The workers that came out were fantastic, and they talked to the kids about what they did and their passion behind their work and how they support our community. And so it was just a neat experience. So we got to do that for social studies, citizenship, and then we took more field trips in our science bucket. So we had some neat opportunities there for STEM. The kids went out to a go-karting place where they actually had a STEM lesson. So it was specific for our homeschool group. We had a large group of kids going, and they explained the whole STEM part of these go-karts and racing and everything else, and then they got to race and play video games for the next few hours. We also got to visit a Toyota plant, which was really cool. We got to go into the plant and actually see the trucks being made, manufactured, the roles that all these people were playing, the robots and how they take all these heavy items to the people. It's just amazing, just so many moving parts. And we got to go on a tour of all that and just see it all in action. It was really neat. Another field trip we took was we ended up going to a local aquarium and Legoland. So it was kind of like a dual thing that another one of our homeschool groups set up, and we decided to take advantage of that opportunity, go check out this neat aquarium, and then go build some things in Legoland. So that was pretty heavy for us. Typically, we only do one field trip a month. So on any given term, that could be 1 to 2, but this particular term, we had a lot of opportunities, and they fit within our goals, so I went ahead and took advantage of those opportunities. So that was really fun. We continued again with God Made Animals. I'm looking for it here. Oh, I had it. Oh. So we continued with God Made Animals. This is a Generations curriculum. So we have been using Generations so we started using Generations this particular year with Taking the Americas for Jesus and now God Made Animals. And it's something that we're really, really enjoying. We love the biblical worldview, how in each lesson they talk to the kids about taking dominion, which was the command that God gave to Adam, which is the command that God gave to Adam. And it just gives them different ways of doing that. It has beautiful photography. There are prayers at the end of each chapter, hymns to sing. It's just been neat. So we actually read through this together. There are video links that we watch together. So these videos are just 3 to 5 minutes long. And then the older kids work through this particular workbook. Now, what I like about the workbook is, yes, it does have, some of the questions and things like that. But then it also has them provide scriptural applications to what they're learning, which is really neat. And then it has an observation or dissection section. And so in this particular section, there are activities that they can do, dissections that they recommend. So this is in addition to what you'll find here where it says do, which has a number of activities as well. So you can do as much or as little as you'd like. And so for chapter 4, I wanted to do as much as I could. And so chapter 4 took us a good while. It took us all the way through term 4, basically. This was invertebrates. We learned about the different insects and mollusks and all of that good stuff. We grew caterpillars into butterflies. I got those from Insect Lore, and then the kids went ahead and filled out this particular booklet. We also dissected a worm, and guys, it was not as fun as I hoped it would be. It was sad. It was so sad. I just felt so bad for my little one because moving forward, I'm not going to include her as much in those dissections. I think back to with my older ones were little, and we did observations at that age, and of course they're oohing and awing with the worms, and they think they're so cool, and we had built a terrarium, and they got to see how the earthworms, mix the soil and the sand and all of that, and it was a lot of fun, and it was so sweet. And so to say, okay, now take that worm and let's cut it open and look at the inside, it wasn't as fun as I thought it would be with my youngest one. Even my other daughter, she was like, Mom, this is so sad. This is so gross. So when we do the grasshopper, it'll probably just be my son moving forward. He thought it was okay. He thought it was cool. He was looking at all the different parts. We drew a diagram and all that. But anyway, we did it. We did it. We dissected a worm. That was one of the activities here. Growing the caterpillars was also another suggestion here. We also combined this with fields and flowers. So my youngest, I had bought The Good and the Beautiful's Fields and Flowers, mainly with the intent of doing something at her level. So it wasn't all higher level for the big kids. And so in this particular parent guide, there were actually topics that we were covering in God Made Animals. So I went ahead and merged the two. So we studied worms from here. We did butterflies, crustaceans, crickets, and snails and slugs. So they had videos there. On some days we watched the video as a group, and then there were sometimes stories that were in here, and we read through the stories as a group. So we ended up just doubling up this particular term, just because there was such a great overlap with it all. So we did fields and flowers. What else did we do? Gardening. Okay, so term 4 fell right at the beginning of gardening season, and we've always wanted to have a larger garden. So last year we had 2 little raised beds, and this year we built 5 more. And so my son really got into it. He built these beds. We had garden soil delivered, and he went and filled them all. And it was just such a neat project. The girls grew them from seedlings, and we planted them out there. And so that took some of our group study as well, because that was part of our science. And so that was a neat way to also kind of welcome spring and enjoy that time outdoors. So for PE and health, we continued with prepping healthy snacks. We continued with brain gym exercises, some general exercises for integrating the primitive reflexes. So I've been doing some research on this. I am now taking a formal course on it all because I wanted to learn as much as possible to help my children and to have the information to help anyone whom I can help or serve, who the Lord places on my path. So I'm learning that right now, but very, very quickly, what I've learned overall is just when a child struggles with a learning disability, with reading, with speech, when a child struggles with focus and attention, or has anxiety or sleep issues, ADHD, all of these neurological behavioral disorders or struggles or challenges that a child may have, what they have found through research is that a lot of times these children have retained primitive reflexes. So primitive reflexes are those reflexes that a baby has, that God has given to this child for survival, like the rooting reflex, and there's different ones, the asymmetrical tonic neck reflex, there's the Moro reflex, and so forth. And in a typically developed child, those reflexes will integrate by 1 year of age. And so when they do, it allows the brain to develop and organize optimally, and the child can thrive. When there's an interruption of that, or when those reflexes don't integrate, however, then they find that the brain has to organize in a different way, and that can lead to some of those challenges that are seen later on as a child grows. And so some of the easier markers to find when a child is little is things like their posture, their alignment. If you're pulling up a baby, they should bring up their head with you. If they hang it back, then you can already see there's some reflexes in there that have not integrated, and some of that neurological development has been compromised. And so I'm fascinated with the topic. I look back at my own journey with high school and how I always wanted to be an occupational therapist at one point, and it's just, it makes me smile how the Lord has placed this in my path now to learn about. And although I'll never be an official occupational therapist, I'm learning things that can help children in a field of study that I'm fascinated by and intrigued by. And what I've seen through this course and in the testimonials I've read and the different books I've read and videos I've watched is just how much children can thrive or advance or be helped when certain exercises are done and those reflexes are integrated. So all that, so it's been interesting. I'm still learning for now, or I'm still learning. Now, up to this point, I had the brain gym that had some of those exercises to do, but what I like about this course is it's kind of pulling everything together and adding in some innate rhythmic movements that is a little bit gentler for some kids that are more hypersensitive, and just really helps their brain to adapt smoothly. So anyway, learning a lot. Something to look into if you have a child with any of those struggles of how they may be helped with some of those exercises and things you can do before learning time and so forth. Creative arts, we've continued with our full day co-op, which covers all of that. We finished up that second half day co-op that was only 10 weeks long. And as I mentioned before, I had the kids, my son did woodworking and a STEM class and PE. My daughter did cupcake decorating and a Pinterest class. And a book club class, and then my other daughter did art and a homesteading class, which was really cool. For game schooling, for another, my kids also continue to do art with, or continued to, my kids also continue to do art with their grandmother, who was a former art teacher, so she worked with them during that time. We did some game schooling. We played Pit together, which was really noisy but fun. And we're just going to continue adding on games now that we don't have that second co-op. For life skills, we've been working on keeping our spaces orderly. We finished the green zone. I don't have it. It's actually over there. But we finished that one. I shared more about it in term 3. We continued with our deep cleaning. We have been doing a lot of spring cleaning in the house as the weather has been warming up, just trying to get rid of things, donate things, and make room for new learning, new ideas, new things to come into our home. And for our read alouds, we've continued with poetry with Emily Dickinson. And then we also brought in a lot of living books for science. So as we were studying those different topics, I brought in different books from the library that were just picture books, and we still enjoyed them, and it was a lot of fun. So that was our term 4. It was jam-packed with more hands-on opportunities, getting out into the community, and we also did some park days in there as well. So it was great. As we have transitioned into term 5, I have found that we are settling in a little bit more. We haven't been out as much. We now are here 4 days a week. So we've had more time to dive into these curricula. I've already started doing some of my high school planning. So I have a whole video on that if you want to check it out. But we're finding our rhythms a little bit more now and just enjoying home a bit with these curriculums. The kids are continuing with their independent studies, so if you followed along, where is it? Did I bring it? I don't want to hurt anything here. Goodness gracious, I know I brought it. Guess not. So now that we're out of term 4, we are spending more time at home. We don't have as many field trips planned at all right now. We're home 4 days a week for our group studies, so we're able to have that group time to work through our curriculum more and some of our other goals that we have in our buckets. The kids are also working through, of course, their independent studies. So even when we were out for co-op, for example, that morning, they would come home to do their independent studies. So they have 4 days worth of independent studies every single week. And you can kind of see the general breakdown here. This is my daughter's checklist. She has Bible, she has language arts, typing, cursive, reading, or workshops, spelling and writing workshop, math drills, math, and piano. So I kind of stagger that from day to day. So 2 days a week she has typing, 2 days a week she has cursive, 1 day a week she has piano, and so forth. And so I break it down, I make the copies, and then at the beginning of every term I just write in the lesson numbers or how many minutes she'll be doing. So if it says math drill, for example, and she's working through some math flashcards, she'll do that for 5 minutes a day. And so I'll put 5 minutes on there. Now the kids, Now, to help them stay on track with those assignments that only have minutes, I bought them each a little timer. We had some white ones in the past that got lost along the way, so I went ahead and got some color-coded ones so they could each have their own color. They can plug in their time, set it, and then stay on task throughout the day. So this is what they use to keep track of their particular lessons. And then, as I've mentioned in the past, when they complete their independent studies and we've done a group study, then that equals one of our homeschool days. And so that's how I calculate our number of days, what week we're in now, such as almost 26, and when our year will come to a close, and then before we pick up again. So that's where we are right now. We have made... flashcards. For term 5, we are already into it. So just some of our goals, we're continuing with our answers books. I was going to do the ology, but I changed it up at the last minute just because I felt like we had already covered a lot of those topics before and in the past. And so what I felt was more applicable at this time was our 24 Family Ways, a family devotional guide by Clay Clarkson. So we're doing this right now. It's been great. I'll share more about it in my term 5 update. And we're still doing our prayer journals for Texas history, or for history, we're still doing Texas history. Science, we're continuing with God Made Animals and that dissection of the cricket. We're going to be doing birds. So I do have an owl pellet dissection set up for the kids. And we're going to play bird bingo and continue feeding our birds and putting up our bird houses out in the backyard. For PE health, we're continuing with what I shared earlier. For creative arts, we're going to continue with game schooling. I did add picture study in there for my littlest one, so we're continuing with our picture studies every day. And then life skills, just continuing with our routines, continuing working through our multiplication drills and those types of things, staying on task. I've also added on a couple of read alouds now that we have a little bit more time for them, which is the children's book of Home and Family, along with Ember Rising. So this is book 3. We've been doing, we had done books 1 and 2 a while back, and it's just been one of their favorites. And so they were so excited to get started on this. And it's long, it's going to take us a while, but we're going to do it a few pages at a time, like we do everything else. It adds up, everyone. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're seeing like, I have so much to do and I'm running out of time, you have next year. Just continue on. You have next year. Don't try to cram it all in this one time and space when you can enjoy that journey. You can enjoy that time you have with your kids, and you can bump things as needed. You can take time as needed. You know, one of the things I was thinking about, so let me just pause here for a bit. I was looking through God Made Animals. You know, every curriculum company is so different, and this is why I say it's so important to know your goals for your family. When you set your goals and you have your bucket lists, you can follow that and track your progress versus following a curriculum. So as an example, you know, in God Made Animals, we targeted insects and vertebrates and so forth. Arthropods. We covered a lot of stuff in chapter 4. If I don't get through every single thing here, the first part of me is like, if I don't get, there's a chapter on God Made Birds. There's going to be a chapter on fish. I mean, all of these could be a study in and of themselves. If I picked up a different curriculum that had a unit study on amphibians, then I would feel that sense of accomplishment when I finished it after 2 or 3 months. Look, I finished amphibians, check the box, what's next? But yet if I do a whole unit on amphibians using this book, it's only one chapter. And so it may feel incomplete. I didn't finish. I failed. Do you see what I mean here? Like, it just depends on how you approach it. So I just see it as we're learning about God's world. We're learning about zoology. we're working our way through, whether we do it now or later. If we want to call it a unit study because I throw in other activities and things like that, then that's fine too. But keep in mind that bigger picture. You don't have to do it all at this one time, and you don't have to do it all this one particular time. You are igniting a love for learning. And if learning becomes just checking off boxes, then that love is often stripped of that. So it's not to say we don't accomplish things, we absolutely do, bit by bit. My point in sharing is just keeping the right perspective through it all. What is most important? Identifying that, taking the time to pray about that, flesh it out, and then moving forward through those pieces and enjoying the journey along, trusting that the Lord is in control and that you're right where you're supposed to be and that you can be faithful within that time and space in your homeschool. So enjoy the journey, friends. I hope this was encouraging to you, helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments or want to share what's working in your terms, I'd love to hear from you. So please drop me a comment below. I'd love to get to know you better in this space and create community with you. But thanks again for watching. Please give me a thumbs up on your way out, and I hope to see you here next time.